What's up, and welcome back to the Bardown Talking Hockey podcast. This is episode number 167. After a long hiatus of the summer, Frank and I are finally back. I normally go through this big intro where we're all excited to talk about the great game of hockey, and I was really getting ready. I was excited to come on here and just start screaming about how excited I am to be back, but that's not going to be the case today. Obviously, it is a very tragic time in NHL community and just the story of a human being. The NHL, the Columbus Blue Jackets, police officials in New Jersey have confirmed the death of Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthrew. Johnny Gaudreau, of course, plays for the Columbus Blue Jackets, formerly of the Calgary Flames and Boston College. Many stints with USA Hockey. Frank, he's the USA Hockey's all-time leading scorer in the IIHF World Championships. We're talking about a magnificent player, somebody who has been known to be a fantastic teammate and an even better person. And when people talk about somebody more of them as a person or how they were as a human being when they were such an elite hockey player, I think that speaks volumes to how great they were as a person because he was so good at hockey that people don't even care about that. They just talk about how good of a person he was. That's wonderful. Frank, your thoughts on it? Welcome back to the show. All of it. It's there's no right way to do this, so I figured we'd just do it.
I can't believe we have to talk about this, to be honest with you. Obviously, there were rumors last night about it, but, people like to start rumors that are false, so you never want to jump the gun on these types of things. Woke up with devastating news, got choked up about it. I still can't believe it, to be honest. We shouldn't have to be talking about this right now. We should just be going on about our own show. He should still, be in the NHL. He should be going to his sister's wedding today. He was planned to be a groomsman today for his sister's wedding in Philadelphia. That's what should be going on right now, and it's not, and it's just tragic. And my thoughts and prayers are with the Gaudreau family, Johnny and Matthrew Gaudreau. It's tragic loss, devastating. Two young talents. It's a big hit to the world of hockey. It's a big hit just in general, and I'm at a loss for words still, to be honest with you.
It's that type of news that you hear it and you just get sick to your stomach. It's like, why does it have to be this way? Why does life have to sometimes throw curveballs like this? But I mean, it's an incredibly sad story, and I feel for the Gaudreau family and everybody involved. I remember when Johnny Gaudreau, and listen, the only way I know how to mourn people is to talk about things that I remember fondly about them, and I'm going to do the same thing about Johnny Gaudreau. I remember the day he got called up. I was in college. I was in one of those theater movie classes, and you would show up, watch a 2.5 hour movie, and then stay for an extra hour and write about it. And at the end of the class, I got word that Calgary was calling up Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and he was one of the top prospects in the NHL at that point. But he earned that spotlight that he got when he first was called up. It wasn't really handed to him. He wasn't a high draft pick. I want to say Hockey was drafted in the second round. I never even really looked it up. I'm pretty sure he was in the second round out of Boston College. He earned his way up. Small, skinny kid. Wasn't big. Didn't have McDavid's size or Matthews' size. He played a big game for such a small, skinny kid, and I think that speaks volume to him as his ability to play and be shifty and do what he can on the ice. It was so incredible. And me and you could go through a couple of his plays. A couple of his greatest moments in the NHL too. There are a lot of them to look back on, some on the ice, some off the ice. I know you have some Gaudreau tape for us to enjoy throughout this show. You could play that whenever you want. Do you want to play it now?
It's only a minute. We could wait a little bit until we start talking about maybe some of his plays. You mentioned Calgary. It is a video of him in a Calgary uniform. I have a funny story, I thought, to kind of lighten the mood about Johnny Gaudreau. It's when he went to go cash his first ever big league NHL check, and he tried doing it through an ATM. And Kevin Hayes is like, buddy, that's not how this works here. And I just thought that was, that was really funny because, at his age, 17, 18, 19 years old, however old he was, in the NHL, when you get a check that big, I mean, you're not used to that, and it's just funny. Your first instinct's like, I'll just go cash it in at the ATM, right? And I don't know, I thought that was funny, lighten the mood a little bit. But yeah, I just saw. I mean, he's also a father. Nobody talks about that. We're talking about, yeah, the hockey world lost somebody, but their family lost somebody. He's leaving behind 2 kids as well, and I can't imagine, what those kids are thinking right now. Like, we have little ones in our family, and they're not going to have a dad that's going to come home, and it's very sad. And it's just, man, it's tragic, and I don't know. I mean, when you mentioned him getting called up, and you were in your class or whatever, Johnny Hockey, that he coined the phrase Johnny Hockey. I'm pretty sure that's when Johnny Football was around, right
Yeah.
around the same time, and that's kind of, I don't know why I think that's kind of why he got the name Johnny Hockey.
Johnny Football was like he ran all over the place. He was exciting. There was like an excitement to the way he played. He
Mhm,
didn't just drop back and throw the ball. He ran all over the place. And then Johnny Gaudreau at Boston College didn't really play a traditional north-south style
mhm.
of hockey. He like was rambunctious and wild out there. So they kind of like made it the football version was Gaudreau, and they were coming up at the same time. One was a bust. One turned into a really, really good player. And of course,
And
absolutely.
and Matthew Gaudreau, he was in the AHL, right? But he played a little bit with the Islanders, I think,
Yep,
right?
he was in
He
the New
did?
York Islanders system, the Philadelphia Flyers system, and he also played at Boston College. Who it's a college we adore and talk about a lot on this show. And Goudreau is one of my early days of watching college hockey. Was like watching him in the Frozen Four and scoring the game-winning goal, or I guess it was the insurance goal in the national championship all those years ago. So yeah, you nailed it spot on with Matthew too. He deserves his tribute too.
Yeah, and originally, because I was thinking Freddie Gaudreau, but they're not related in any way. I
No,
want I want to make that known for people who thinking it's the guy who plays for the Minnesota Wild. No, this Matthew Gaudreau was in the AHL. Yeah, played a little bit for the Islanders, but it's a very, very tough pill to swallow here for us.
it really, really is. I was a fan of Johnny Hockey. He had there are a lot of funny stories of him kind of being like, just an interesting person. Like you brought up the ATM story. Kevin Hayes, it's also, they used to hang out, poor Kevin Hayes. Cause I feel terrible for him too. He lost his brother, Kevin, or Jimmy,
I mean,
all those, or I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Now it's actually like the anniversary was like 3 or 4 days ago, which is crazy. And now his best friend, Johnny Gaudreau, gone. But Kevin Hayes, told a story about how everyone was like eating a steak dinner, and then they look up and they're like, "Where's Johnny?" And like he went across the street to a place where he could just get a plain and simple ham and cheese sandwich because he wasn't into like, you know, big food. He was like a big kid. He wanted a ham and cheese sandwich when everybody else was eating steak or whatever. It was a very funny story. He just seemed to be a human being version of himself on the ice. He had a lot of like forever young moments when he
mhm.
was playing hockey just because of the way he played. The smile was infectious. Um, it's a true tragedy what has
I mean,
happened here.
extremely talented. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, you never want to hear news like this, but news coming for a player of his caliber and his talent is it just doesn't feel real. I mean, you could see, like, this is obviously when he played with the Flames before he was with the Blue Jackets. I mean, his talent level is through the roof, and I know you posted some videos on him, VP, when he was with Yager and he played with Yager and he assisted on that goal. I mean, it's just devastating. But it's just, look at how skillful he was. 100-point player. Did he get to 100 points? No, right? He got
I
90,
think 99 was his career
99. Yeah.
high. No, he did break 100. The year both him and Kachuk broke like 100 on the Flames. And that's when the Battle of Alberta was like really cooking. They played the Oilers in the second round. In that same playoff, Gaudreau scored the overtime winner to send the Flames to the second round. He scored the overtime series winner against the Dallas Stars in the first round. And that was a shifty, incredible play too. But I mean, the guy was a walking highlight reel. He didn't have like it was never one of those things where he would like blow you away with like 150 points or anything like that. But all 100 of his points or all 80 of his points were some of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. He was as creative as any player I can remember. He was an even smaller, skinnier version of Patrick Kane. And a lot of times when kids were coming out of college, you or junior or whatever, getting ready for the draft, you'd hear Johnny Gaudreau as a player comparable because the guys with the big booming shots were either compared to Stamkos, Ovechkin, or Matthews. The guys who were like horses up and down the ice were always compared to Crosby or Malkin. The dudes with shifty hands and crazy shoulder fakes were compared to Patty Kane. Well, the guys who danced all over the place, they were a lot of the times compared to Johnny Gaudreau. And that just goes to show how much of a transcendent player he was during his time. I can't believe it.
Me either.
Like
I'm still like at a loss for words.
like we're gonna have opening night and Johnny Gaudreau's not gonna be there with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, it is just an unfathomable loss. And
His
go ahead.
last season with Calgary he actually had 115 points.
Yeah.
He had 40 goals, 75 assists. And I know Nationwide Arena where the Blue Jackets play, I believe they put out in loving memory, and fans that walk by, they're leaving flowers, sharing some of their greatest moments of Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, this literally, it goes beyond the hockey world. This is all over the news, all over, just way beyond hockey. It's a travesty.
It really is. I mean, I can't put myself in the shoes of their family. They were getting ready for, his sister's wedding. Him and Matthew were going to be groomsmen in it. And we're going to keep saying it over and over again, but it's an indescribable loss that people shouldn't have to go through. But it happened here. It's tragic. I mean, when I first saw it, I didn't believe it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to wait for someone credible. And then when the Columbus Blue Jackets posted it, and there was a quote from Commissioner Bettman. I mean, the entire hockey world came together to mourn the loss of Johnny Gaudreau today.
The MLB posted it.
The MLB posted it, exactly. The Cleveland Cavaliers posted about it. Like it's all over the sports world. If you haven't seen it, go on Twitter, and Mike Greenberg with his 3-minute tribute to Johnny Hockey was really, really cool. We were debating doing the show today, and I got opinions from multiple people who would know better than me on stuff like that. And I feel like coming on here and giving a tribute to Johnny Gaudreau, it was good. It was important. And I'm thankful we got to watch him for, I think we had 10 years in the NHL. Because it was 11.
9 with Calgary and 2 with the Blue Jackets.
Mm-hmm. And I posted that goal where he assisted on Jaromir Jagr's final goal in the NHL. And Jagr was like dumbfounded that Gaudreau was able to find him with the pass. And he played with Lemieux, and he played with all sorts of wonderful players over the years. And he still, at 40 whatever years old at that moment in time, was impressed with a pass that Gaudreau made to him. It's pretty cool. I'm sure that's something he'll cherish, especially now. Later on in the day, I'll tweet the video of his last goal in the NHL. It was a pretty sweet goal. Zach Werenski took a shot from the point with some great awareness to notice a lane was opening up to the net, and Johnny Gaudreau took it behind the net. It did like a little wraparound. It was against the Carolina Hurricanes, obviously one of the later games of the season for Columbus. But, I mean, what a loss, man.
I can only imagine that the Blue Jackets probably they're going to tribute him at some point during the year, if not on opening night. I wouldn't also be surprised if number 13 is on the ice the whole year. I just feel like they're going to pay him respect in that manner. We'll see. It's a really, really a tough pill to swallow. It's hard to talk about. Like I said, I was choked up. I got very emotional over it. I didn't want to wake up to this news from everything we've heard yesterday, but yeah, this is a rough one. This is a rough one.
Do you have a favorite Johnny Gaudreau memory that comes to mind when you think of his playing days?
There's none off the top of my head. I got to be honest with you. I can't picture a specific goal. I didn't watch a ton of Blue Jackets games. Most of my time watching them, I remember him in a Flames jersey. But there are none that really stick off the top of my head. Um, yeah, I don't know.
It's got to be the overtime winner against Dallas. I can't remember if it was Game 6 or 7, but he had the overtime winner. Sent the Flames on to the next round against the Edmonton Oilers, who ended up winning the series and then losing to Colorado, who won the cup. Um, I definitely think that goal he scored with Boston College to give them the insurance and basically seal the national championship. I mean, to win a Hobie Baker and a national championship, I mean, what a legendary college player, too. I hope that gets remembered just as much as his NHL career. You know, of course, in addition to him being a wonderful person, that's obviously first and foremost. But
That video has been circulating too. The one of him in Boston College. Watch that. Yeah, it was a pretty sweet moment.
I there are times where like I go to say something and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening.
I can't believe we're sitting here talking about it.
Like this isn't how I envisioned Bardown coming back, but I am happy to, share our love. It's not like Johnny Gaudreau was a player we never talked about. Talk
No,
about
we
him all the
talked
time.
about it.
We had a whole period dedicated to him when he chose Columbus, if I remember correctly, because he didn't choose the Devils.
That was
Remember
a big
last
thing.
second?
We were thinking, is he going to go to the Devils? New Jersey native.
Yeah.
It
I
didn't happen.
mean,
He went to the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets, young and promising. They're rebuilding something special over there. Got a lot of good young prospects. And then this happens, and it really deflates the whole. I mean, I can't imagine like I said, I can't imagine what the family's going through. I can't imagine what the Blue Jackets organizations. You build so many bonds that, like I said, just goes beyond hockey. Like that's your family too, all your teammates, and I can't imagine what they're thinking of. And
yeah, we've seen countless of his teammates, past and present, post on social media too. I know Patrick Laine was just traded away from um, Columbus, but he posted something on Instagram. The one that got me was Kent Johnson, a picture of him uh, in a Flames jersey as a kid watching Johnny Gaudreau. It's like him in the background taking a selfie. And Johnny Gaudreau was like on the ice, and then on the same picture was like a little montage or whatever, a collage, was him skating on the ice in a Columbus Blue Jackets uniform with the guy he grew up watching. I mean,
isn't that crazy?
it is just nuts. And he had a lot of life and a lot of hockey left in his um, future, and he was taken way too soon, along with his brother Matthrew, who deserves just as much conversation about him. He wasn't a superstar hockey player like his brother, but he was a person, and his life is lost too. He was a father. He had family, friends, people who cared about him, loved him, and I think that's important to mention too. I also think, Frank, this is a great time to remind people that drinking and driving is not cool. You're an asshole if you drink and drive. Like at any point, you lose all respect from me. It's easy, especially in 2024. At least 20, 30 years ago, it was still bad, but like there were sometimes like, what else are you gonna do? There's no excuse now. You have to click 2 buttons on your phone to
Hmm.
get a ride picked up for you, or just be aware that a bad decision like that could do something like this and hurt millions of people, or a family, ruin multiple families forever. um it's not worth it. You can just stop drinking. Like, it's not that important. It's really not.
And the man who was arrested, he told officers, "Oh, I had 5 to 6. I only had 5 to 6 beers." Is that worth it? Ruining your life because you wanted to save $20 on an Uber? It's not worth it. It's not worth the repercussions. It's not worth the consequences that happen after the fact because something like this could happen. I mean, now look at him. He's charged with 2 counts of death by auto, and who knows what else is going to come out of it, right? I mean, there's an ongoing investigation, according to the New Jersey Police Department. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it to drink and drive. Even if you have 1 beer, you really shouldn't drink and drive. There's no tolerance for that type of stuff. So, yeah, um, both will be missed. Both left their mark in the NHL. And like I said before, my thoughts and prayers are with the Gaudreau family, and can't imagine what they have to deal with. And also, my thoughts and prayers are with the sister, because I don't know, I don't even know how you go on with getting married. To be honest with you, I wouldn't feel right doing that. It's just a horrible thing. I know how close I am with my brother and my sister. I just, it would take a lot of time for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no doubt at all. I mean, damn, it's crazy.
I'm getting
That
emotional talking about it right now.
I mean, because you could put yourself in the shoes of what's going on with this family, and you know, it's one like we people pass away all the time. Celebrities, people we know, see on our TV, but like this Johnny Gaudreau, man, like it's it's insane. I cannot believe that this is happening. And you know, like we're going to keep repeating ourselves on this show because it's just hard to put into words, but you know, we wanted to come on and give a little tribute to him. I think people in the hockey world, it's a small but loud community, people who love hockey.
Absolutely.
And you know, I think Johnny Gaudreau embodied like the American hockey dream. Like you grow up, you live in New Jersey, or you know, in our case Illinois, or wherever you're from, and you play youth hockey. You make it to college. Um, you do wonderful things in college. You win a Hobie Baker as a freshman. You're one of the first players to ever, or no, I don't think he was a freshman. I don't think he was a freshman. I'm pretty sure Paul Correa, Jack Eichel, Fantilli, and Celebrini are the only freshmen to ever win the Hobie Baker. But still, he won the Hobie Baker. Doesn't matter what year you are in school. You won the Hobie Baker. And then a national championship the following year. And then boom, Calgary's like, hey, Johnny, come play in the NHL. And he lives out the American dream, the hockey fan dream of playing in the NHL with a big market like the Calgary Flames, has tons and tons of success. Along the way, he is playing, you know, he had the World Juniors with Team USA, and then he's playing IIHF World Championships. He signs a huge ticket with the Columbus Blue Jackets when free agency finally hits for him, and now he's gone, and it's unimaginable sadness. And you know, how could you be so sad for someone you don't know? Well, because like hockey, like I said, it's a small but impactful community. And you know, by small I mean relative to like other sports and whatnot, hockey is a lot of the times considered a niche favorite sport compared to, you know, fans of football, basketball, baseball. But I mean, it's growing and it's big and people know who Johnny Hockey is. um this one stings, man. This one really
Yeah,
stings.
and, he started, that was the next wave of, like, he was like the icon or the next face of American-born players coming into the NHL at that point. That was before Austin Matthews came to the NHL. That's before the Hughes came to the NHL. I mean, this was 11 years ago. He made his NHL debut. I mean, that was freaking, let's see, he started in 2013-14. That's even before the Hawks won their third cup. That's how long ago and how long he's been in the NHL. And he was the next face of American born players. He lived up to it. He had tremendous seasons. Like you said, that 115-point season. He had a 99-point season that you referred to as well. I mean, this kid was just unbelievable. He was a superstar, an all-star, and he paved the way for the next wave of American born players. And we see how much American hockey has grown over the years with the elite talent the NHL has gotten. And it's just a big hit. It's just a big hit.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, he probably plays for Team USA at Worlds.
Oh yeah.
Not Worlds.
The
He just got done playing
Four
at
Nations
Worlds.
face off.
The Four Nations face off. He probably is, you know, a winger on that team, I would think, and then the
He's still
Olympics the following year.
70 point scorer. I mean, I think that deserves a spot on the team.
Yeah, and you know what? His point production the last year or two with that tragically bad Columbus team, I don't even think that's like a real. Now, do I think he's would have had 115 points ever again? I don't know. You're getting into your 30s, but I still think Patrick Kane had 85, 90 points at a 33-year-old. Like Johnny Gaudreau was that good, and with better line mates and Fantilli growing, like it was it was something that was being built, and it's just been taken away because of somebody's poor decision to get behind the wheel of a car inebriated, and that's just not how anyone should live their life. As Skylar said, there's zero excuse to drive intoxicated. None.
And the guy also made a statement that he felt like the car next to him wouldn't let him pass. I just think that's poor judgment because you're under the influence. You have those types of thoughts, and this just doesn't feel real to me. Like we're talking right now on the show, this doesn't feel like it's our first show back, and that like this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to try our best to make the impossible transition to go over some of the things that we missed in the hockey world. Once we're kind of wrapping up talking about Gaudreau, because there's not much more we could say. I mean, I'm incredibly sad. I'm going to be sad for a long time when Columbus hits the ice on opening night and they honor him. I don't know if their first game is at home or on the road, but they'll probably honor him in both cases.
Oh, yeah.
Columbus is going to host the Stadium Series this year, which is even more sad to think about because Johnny Gaudreau would have been like the face of the marketing for the Blue Jackets side when it comes to the Stadium Series. That is going to be a huge event at the Horseshoe in Columbus, which is, I've been there. It's a magnificent place for sports fans to see. If you haven't been to Columbus, I highly recommend it. People crap on it. It's amazing. It's like a college metropolitan town. It's like hard to describe. It's like if you took Chicago, a smaller version of Chicago, and put a college in the entire city. That's what Columbus is like. And he was one of the kings in town. It's tough, man. This sucks.
Yeah. I really don't know what else to say, VP.
Yeah, it's tough. Frank, we're going to make the impossible transition. Let's talk about some of the stuff. Whatever we don't get to today, we'll push to the sheet for next week. We could predict the 12-team college football preseason thing if you want to do that still. I don't mind doing it if you're down. We could use that to end the show when there's about 10 minutes left. But we could roll through some of this news really quickly. Toronto Maple Leafs named Austin Matthews to be the captain of their franchise after John Tavares has been there and been the captain basically since he got there. Tavares played a big role in the transition, so there's no hard feelings or anything like that. Austin Matthews, one of the best players in the NHL, now the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the most popular team in the NHL.
Iconic franchise, obviously, original 26th captain in the franchise, and I thought it was very interesting that he's the first ever American-born captain of this historic franchise. And, this is Austin Matthews' 9th season in the NHL. A very vocal man on the ice. He shows signs of being a leader, so it makes sense. There are a lot of changes that the Maple Leafs need to make in this organization. I think this is just one of them, of the tip of the iceberg. However, I do think this is also a more modern approach for the Maple Leafs. With John Tavares stepping down, he's 34. He agreed it was time to step down, take a more casual approach to try and help this team win. He is still with the organization. I don't want anybody to think that they cut him or anything or traded him. He's still here. He's still going to help the team win. But, it's a big moment for Austin Matthews because if you think about it, and I know we've said this countless times on the show before when talking about captaincy, not every team's best player ends up being captain of their team. But Austin Matthews, he possesses captain qualities. He seems, when you're watching him, he seems like he could be kind of boring, doesn't smile a ton. Kind of like McDavid, when you get the vibe when you're watching McDavid, he seems kind of boring. But Austin Matthews, when he cares about his team and he wants to win, he's very vocal and he cares and he'll go and talk to the refs and that's what you like to see as a captain. You want somebody out there who wants this team to win, who has the success in his veins. He knows what success looks like on an individual level, and now he'll have the chance to show that on a team level too. And I think this is the right move for the Maple Leafs because they need some changes.
Absolutely. I'm here for it. Austin Matthews is one of the best in the NHL. Again, talent does reinforce some level of leadership because you are the face of the franchise. You're
Mhm.
Austin Matthews, but also it's not the most pivotal. You could be an alternate captain. The Devils' second best player is their captain. Um, if the Blackhawks don't feel Bedard is ready to be the leader, he'll be their best player, but not their captain.
Right.
That's a decision Kyle will make between now and October, I assume. It kind of sounded at his presser that I was at that he anticipated naming a captain, so I'm sure one will be named. But it's not something that is just given to you for no reason. The most iconic franchise in the sport decided to give it to Austin Matthews. Frank, arguably the biggest news since our last show, because our last show was it was like 2 weeks after free agency was over. I did the research. I
Early
made
July
sure, like mid July. It was like
or
July
mid July.
15th or something like that. Kuznetsov signed with Russia on our last show. Leaving the NHL. Um, and that I basically looked up the biggest news since then. I think the biggest news is the offer sheet that the St. Louis Blues submitted to the Edmonton Oilers for Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. The Oilers had 7 days to decide whether or not they were going to match the offer sheet, and they chose not to for either player. I thought they were going to for Broberg and let Holloway go. Because Broberg is like a young first round defenseman who was really good in the playoffs this year. Holloway's a good player too. He's shifty. He was real good at Wisconsin. He comes into the NHL. He's getting bottom 6 minutes. I'm a little surprised that both of these guys signed the offer sheet in an effort to go to the Blues. And they were like, okay, well, I'm taking money over a chance to win. Some people, that's their prerogative. They have every right to do that. I just, sometimes when guys who are already millionaires, I'm like, you wouldn't rather play for the Oilers? Over the Blues, who are probably going to be pretty stinky. I have them as the second worst team in the Central Division this year, and it won't be long before the Blackhawks pass them because they're going to have to go in a rebuild, I think. But maybe they don't think so because they got these guys. But I mean, what was your reaction to the offer sheets, how it went down, and the fact that these two now play for the St. Louis Blues?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the Oilers strapped for cash a little bit too with their
Nah,
salary cap?
not anymore.
No, but I'm saying that's why they couldn't match the offer sheet. I don't think
But
because
they
they
made trades to open up the cap space. They got rid of CC, which freed up enough to at least get Broberg done.
at least
And
one,
then
but I don't think they could have done both if
maybe
they
they
still
could.
had other moves to make.
Yeah, maybe they couldn't have, but I was pretty surprised.
I was surprised too. The Blues got the Oilers' two youngest players. That's a tough loss for
And
the
they're
Oilers.
good. They're
They were
good.
they were good in the playoffs. Broberg
Yeah.
was at least. Holloway was pretty good too.
If you're
I
a
mean, he
depth,
didn't.
speedy fourth liner, you don't need 50 goals to be a good player. He served his role well.
Yeah, and we talk about depth with the Edmonton Oilers a lot, especially in the playoffs, and they lost two big pieces of their depth, two young pieces of their depth. But it's a good move by the Blues. But like you said, I'm kind of surprised they chose. I mean, I can't imagine the money would have been that much different between two teams. Nothing astronomical, I wouldn't think, but I I might be different. Maybe I'm saying it because I'm not in this their situation, but I'd want to win. I'd take a little bit pay cut to win. Your goal in the NHL is to win the Stanley Cup. So
I'm with you. The best thing that could happen to the Blues would be that they suck this year, royally suck. Because I still think with Broberg and Holloway, they could suck. And then you're in the sweepstakes for Hagens, and let's say you reach for the moon and land amongst the stars, you get the second or third overall pick. And then you're adding Snuggerud, who's going to go to Minnesota again this year. Tough loss for Minnesota in football yesterday. Jesus.
that was a fun game.
Yeah, it was a very fun game. I just don't get why you blow off fireworks prematurely like that when the field goal missed by 10 feet. But Minnesota hockey is going to be significantly better than Minnesota football, and Snuggerud's going to be a big part of that. And the Blues are just going to insert him next year. Imagine if they also inserted a Hagens, or if they're really bad, eventually McKenna 2 years from now. I think the Blues, that would be the path I took if I were them. And maybe they feel they are taking that way, and Broberg and Holloway will be good pieces to have ready to go when they are ready to kind of execute this rebuild. And we'll see. Broberg and Holloway will get significantly more minutes this year than they would have with Edmonton. Bouchard is the number one guy in Edmonton. Nobody's arguing that. Um, when you have Draisaitl, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Skinner, and Arvidsson, there's no top six room. He's going to go to the Blues and play on either the first or second line. So I get it from an opportunity standpoint, but man,
I
what an
think the worst
interesting move.
case scenario is the Blues are a bubble team and miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
That would be devastating for their organization.
I just really don't see, like, okay, I'm going to start ripping off teams in the Central Division, and you have to tell me whether or not you think the St. Louis Blues are better than them or not.
Okay.
Colorado Avalanche,
No.
Dallas Stars,
No.
Winnipeg Jets,
No.
Nashville Predators,
Hell no.
Minnesota Wild,
No.
Utah Hockey Club.
No, because Arizona, they had something cooking. I like them.
Me too. And then Chicago.
It's not. Blackhawks could be better than them, and I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you.
I'd be a
Blues are
little
better.
surprised.
Right now, I'd say the Blues are better, but it's not. I think it's closer than you think.
Yeah, it's not for long either. Whether it's close or not, the Blues could have 20 more points than the Hawks this year, and I would still say the Hawks are better off long term. Like,
Absolutely.
it's not close. But yeah, it was an interesting move for both sides. I thought the Oilers would be like, these guys, we are so close to winning the cup. We lost game 7 by 1 goal. So why would we lose these guys? But they opted out not to. Now they have an extra bit of cap space, though. They can go trade for a defenseman.
Yeah.
If so-and-so becomes available, they have that space that they can, the other team retains 50%. Now all of a sudden they have this extra cap space, and maybe they get somebody better than Broberg. Like, who's this year's Noah Hannafin, right? That could easily be Edmonton's guy this upcoming season. Absolutely. Or Tanev, the way Tanev was available last year. What if the Blackhawks are like a medium to stinky team, but they're sellers? They're going to be sellers at the deadline. I think we all agree with that. What if Connor Murphy's healthy and available? Right? Like, those are guys that Edmonton could go for. The other team retains 50%. In the long run, it could be good for them, but we'll see. The Blues had to trade for the pick that they gave to Pittsburgh in the Kevin Hayes deal, just to send it to Edmonton, because you have to give your own pick back. It can't be a third-round pick from another team. It has to be your original pick. Otherwise, you can't submit the offer sheet. So the fact that they did get their pick back, it was brilliant GMing for Doug Armstrong. In terms of like shrewd moves, but was it the right move?
I think a lot of people are angry too about the offer sheet. Like, there was a lot of flack he was taking.
Well, GMs are always, until they become like a regular thing, it was like code to not do them.
Mm-hmm.
Because
the last one has been like 3 years ago.
Yeah, and before that it was like 10.
Yeah.
And with a lot of failed attempts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and the rule's there for a reason. I'm shocked nobody's offer sheeted Jeremy Swayman. Like, you could get a $9 million goalie, give up a couple draft picks. But you're in bad graces with Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins going forward then, right? Like, there's a lot of issues that come with it. But we move on. We could just quickly touch on a couple of these things. Yaroslav Askarov, one of the top 2 goalie prospects in the world. He could be number 1. I probably would rank him 1. It's either him or Wallstedt from the Wild. But Askarov traded to San Jose. Some people thought Carolina. The Devils made a phone call. I have confirmed that. They were never close, though. He ends up going to San Jose, who now has a future number 1 center, a future number 2 center, multiple wings that they like. They have Quinton Musty, Mohamedulin, and they have the number 1 goalie prospect in the world. All of a sudden, things have turned around for San Jose looking forward. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say he's the number 1 prospect in the world for a goalie. He's highly coveted. First round pick by the Nashville Predators in 2020. Blockbuster move. The Predators, though, they just signed UC Saros to an 8-year extension. So the timetables with Askarov didn't line up unless he was going to be sidelined as a backup for nearly a decade. And, by that time, you wasted tons of years of his talent, and he wouldn't want to be a backup. That's not what he's here for. Didn't really make sense. The Predators are in win now mode. We saw that this offseason. This is a great move by the Sharks. They're still rebuilding, like you said. It offers Askarov a true chance to showcase his talent. But, fans have to remember that he might not look like what he's projected right away because of how bad the team is in front of him. The Sharks, they're much improved over last season, but they still don't have that dynamic team built in front of Askarov yet. But it's a massive win for the Sharks nonetheless. And I expect down the line, big Blackhawks Sharks rivalries. I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. Listen, if the Sharks come up and they're good over the next handful of years, it's going to be awesome. We had another trade, Frank. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Winnipeg Wets traded two of their first-round picks from the last couple of years. Rucker McGroarty, the captain of the USA team that won gold. They sent him to the Winnipeg Jets, sent him to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And now the Penguins have a top flight prospect. They traded their first round pick from last year. I'm drawing a blank on his name though, and I didn't write it down like a moron. You might have it written down.
Who, the other prospect?
Yeah, that went back
Braden
to
Yeager?
the Braden Yeager. I knew it was something with Yeager, but I didn't want to mess it up. He goes to Calgary. It's hard to judge this trade, because we've seen more of McGroarty because of the stage that the World Juniors presented to us. But Yeager's a first-round pick, too.
Yeah.
And I want to say they were both 14th overall, just two different drafts.
They were.
But, I mean, we'll see what happens in a couple years with this deal. McGroarty didn't want to play for Winnipeg.
Both top prospects in their respective organizations. I would say Yeager has the higher ceiling of the two. To be honest, it's close though. It's very close. Originally, I was going to say McGroarty, and then I did some digging. I'm like, I'll give Yeager the slightest of edges, but I think it's about time the Pittsburgh Penguins are starting to add a little bit of youth to their roster. McGroarty did sign his entry-level contract with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this is a change of pace from what we've seen over the past handful of years. So good for the Penguins. I think it'll work out for them.
One of the biggest, I want to say, critiques of the Pittsburgh Penguins over the last 2 years that they didn't make the playoffs. Because before that, them missing the playoffs was like unheard of. The Crosby-Malkin era was Pittsburgh makes the playoffs every single year and are a legit Stanley Cup favorite no matter what. And the last 2 years, they've just been mid and missed the playoffs, but barely. One of the big critiques on them has been that they are soft as baby shit. Right? And McGroarty, he's not like a fighter or anything like that, but like he brings a little bit of nails to his game. He was Team USA's captain for a reason. And that Team USA team featured players who are much better in terms of skill than McGroarty. They had Cutter Gauthier and Will Smith and Gabe Perreault and Leonard. I mean, that team, really not that surprising looking back that they won gold. And they had Lane Hudson on defense. Zeev Bouillon was on defense. What a mistake letting that guy fall to 13 will be. Wearing this Wild jersey for a reason. That was a great team, and we've seen, like I said, we've seen more of McGroarty, but I do agree with you. I think Yeager could be right there with him in terms of talent, and we'll see how it goes. We don't have to go too far deep into this, but Frank, there's a messy situation going on between the Philadelphia Flyers and Ryan Johansson, who doesn't want to play for them anymore.
But then there's speculation on if his injury's real. I come on, he's got to have surgery.
He played for the Colorado Avalanche 2 days before the trade.
I know, but to me, if you have surgery scheduled, you're not just doing it just to.
And the Flyers don't agree with needing the surgery. That's where it gets messy too. So it's getting Jack Eichel with Buffalo vibes. He's probably still with the Sabres, making the playoffs with Tage Thompson and all. He's probably not a Stanley Cup champion like he is, but he's probably still with the Sabres. If Buffalo's just like, yeah, Jack, you can have that surgery if you'd like. It's your body.
And they're terminating his contract, right?
Yeah, well, they want to. He's fighting back.
They're in the process of like making it happen.
But it would be done if through the NHLPA, Johansson didn't submit like a grievance against it.
But he did, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see what the resolution is, but it's a messy situation.
I just don't think the Flyers want to pay him his last $8 million on the last year of his contract.
Exactly. That's probably correct. I really don't have an opinion on it because I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
And like
that would be my guess.
Yeah, sometimes people in the world like to throw out an opinion just for the sake of having an opinion, but sometimes it's okay just not to have one.
Yeah.
Just brought it up because that's something that's going on in the NHL. That's big news. Patrick Laine was traded to the Montreal Canadiens. Your thoughts?
He had a couple decent years with the Blue Jackets, nothing crazy, couple 20-goal seasons. I do think he's got more talent to show. I mean, he had 44 goals the second year in the NHL while with the Jets, but I know that team was a whole lot better than this Blue Jackets team he was on. But he also had a lot of better players around him to help him out. Let's not forget VP. He's only 26 years old. There's still times for a lot of time for him to show shadows of his former self. He said in an interview that he still believes he could score 40 goals, and I believe that 40 goal talent is still there. You just got to surround him by the right players and the right pieces. He's got to stay healthy. And then we go from there. He's only got 2 years left on his contract, and the Habs have money to spend. So I think the situation that the Canadians are in, it's risky, but it's only a short-term risk. And, it could pay off in the next couple of years. Then after 2 years, obviously, we could reevaluate the situation. And it's not that big of a risk.
100%. People act like Austin Matthews is a young baby in the league still, and Patrick Laine is a 1,000-year-old man. But the fact of the matter remains is they went 1-2 in the same draft, and they're the same age. If
26.
a lot of people critique Laine's work ethic and stuff like that, well, if Montreal can't unlock that for him, I don't know who will. That is a thing. But I think playing with Suzuki on the top line, and maybe he gets Kirby Dach as a winger or Cole Caulfield as another winger, I would probably separate Laine and Caulfield because they're both sniper first. You could really add some depth there. Montreal's biggest need is a second line center, I think, right now, and they probably could be a bubble team if they were to find one. But yeah, I think it's a good trade for the Habs because he's a sniper and he's scored a crap ton of goals before. He didn't forget how to do that. He's just not. He's a guy who he relies heavily on a good centerman, and he hasn't had that much in Columbus. He wasn't healthy a lot in Columbus too. And lastly, to wrap up the hockey, best news of the summer in my opinion, the Hughes brothers are on the cover of NHL 25. Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, and Quinn Hughes, two of them of the New Jersey Devils, one of the Vancouver Canucks. Frank, I love this cover. I can't wait for the game. I think because the Hughes brothers are on it, it's a hard copy edition for me after the last couple have been soft copies. Only because, once the game's cycle is over, I'll put the game in its case and put it on my shelf for everyone to see forever. And it'll look good with the Marty Brodeur version. And I'll go back to buying digital again. I've moved on. I'm into the digital wave now. It took a long time for me to accept it, but I'm in now. I bought College Football 25 digitally. Call of Duty will be all digitally going forward too. I'm on that wave now. But with NHL 25, I want to own the copy just because they're on the cover.
NHL and Call of Duty are the games I like to have physical copies of, usually because I've collected them over the years. And I just like it for those games. Other games, I really don't care that much. But yeah, this is the first time that there are 3 players on the cover of an NHL video game. It's not the first time that 3 players are on the cover of an EA Sports video game, because you look at College Football 25, there's like 50 players on the cover. But it is the first time in EA Sports history that siblings will grace the cover of any EA Sports video game of any sport. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to NHL this year. There's a new wildcard hut mode. It won't be available on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, so it's time to make the jump for those who don't have the next generation consoles. We say next gen, but it's like current gen now because there will be a next gen sooner rather than later. But yeah, I love what I've seen from the game so far. The AI has been improved. There's going to be a grudge match, like if I play you, VP, it'll track our history of every time we've played and keep track.
That's cool.
Like before the game, like it'll show statistics of like while we're loading up, like how they do the animation, like they play the music and they show the stadium. It'll have like our history that we've played against. It'll know. And a lot of people, I'm gonna put this up on the screen here. Of the scoreboard is
it's bland, but I like it.
It's bland, but people are excited that it is back in the top left-hand corner of the screen instead of being on the bottom.
With that. I agree with that too.
They added the shots on goal, which is pretty cool because that's standard now. And when you're watching NHL games, the only thing I have a problem is that there's no logos and it's just the letters and the colors. I think that's kind of silly. I think you could easily sneak in a small Devils logo or Canucks logo in there next to Van and NJD. But other than that, I am glad it's back in the top left.
I am too. I would prefer there to be a logo too. I'm glad the colors are there, though. I would take the colors over anything. I would rank it colors, logo, letters in that order of importance for me. I hate that they made the Devils losing by 3 goals. Like, what the shit is that? Couldn't they just make it freaking tied?
They got outshot. They were getting
Yeah.
dominated.
Yeah, and the Devils played Vancouver well this year. For all their shortcomings this year, brother Jack and brother Luke, they have brother Quinn's number most of the time throughout the 3 or 4 years that they've all been in the league. So I'm excited about it, though. I'm sure the Hughes brothers are set for a big year. I mean, Jack is the first player in New Jersey Devils history to have a point per game in 3 straight seasons. Quinn is the reigning Norris Trophy winner, and Luke is the 3rd place finisher for the Calder Trophy. So it's just an incredible hockey family. I'm happy that they're on the cover, and I'm happy that 2 of the 3 play for my favorite team. They're a big part of my life, and I'm thrilled to death for the season to come and the game to be played.
And you know what this means, VP? This cover, what this means for the future?
What's that?
That a Bedard cover will be coming.
A Bedard cover will be coming. I mean, that to me is like
the
a lot.
Hughes brothers came in before the Bedard. They're the young generation now, but Bedard's like that next wave. He's coming.
Yep.
He's coming in the next 2 years. Give him 2 years at least.
Yep. I believe that. Bedard will be on a cover. I hope Celebrini gets on a cover too. I want to see San Jose on the cover. That teal jersey is so sweet. Yeah, give me a San Jose cover too. Put Will Smith and Celebrini on it. Put Boston College and Boston University together. Give me something. Give me these young. I mean, and they're cool showcasing California as we've seen because California hockey is important. With Zegras on the cover with the palm trees, that was great. We need a Kachuk too. I think I thought Matthew would be on this year and the Hughes next year, but reverse roles maybe.
I don't know if Kachuk will ever get on. I'd like to see him on, but it's like they tend to target the younger guys, and Kachuk's getting a little bit older. You know,
he was the 6th overall pick in the Matthews draft.
Yeah, Matthew's been on it twice. I don't know. It seems like his time may. I mean, Ovechkin's been on the cover since. They don't always go young guys.
The only legend who hasn't been on is Crosby.
Well, he was on.
He's never been on.
He's never been on.
Sidney Crosby has never been on NHL. It's kind of ridiculous.
Like 08 or something.
I hope they get him on in like his age 40 season or something like that, or put him and Bedard on the same cover. That would be cool. That would be sick.
It might come, maybe not though.
I'd love to see Sid get on one cover, like when they threw Tom on in his final season in the NFL, or one of his final seasons. Frank, let's quickly predict this college football playoff. Who do you got?
Yeah,
who do you think makes the playoff? You don't have to give me matchups.
No,
just who do you think makes the playoffs, and then maybe throw out a national championship. You're going to be wrong. I'm going to be wrong, maybe, but it's August and it's fun to do this.
Here's who I got. I got Ohio State. I'm just going down the list.
Yeah, just go down the list. No particular order. Just the 12 teams you got making the playoff.
Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia.
Yep.
Clemson.
Nice.
Oklahoma State.
Nice.
Texas.
Nice.
Oregon.
Okay.
Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame.
Yep.
Miami.
Yep.
Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And Memphis.
Wow. Throwing in the Memphis on the end. I like that.
Not a Power 5.
I know.
But that's going to happen with the 12-team playoff now.
I think so. I really do. I have them too, Frank.
Memphis?
I have Memphis too. So that's one of mine. I got Memphis, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Clemson, Alabama, Oregon, LSU, Penn State. And that's it. I think that was 12. I said my 12, right? Because I went out of order with Memphis. It confused me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think. And who do you got for your national champion?
Ohio State against Clemson.
And who wins?
Clemson.
Ah! I thought we had the same national championship. I have Ohio State playing Georgia, but I think Ohio State gets the win. They got a quarterback. It's that team from last year with a quarterback. But,
Yeah,
hey,
I mean, it is.
I picked Clemson. Well, I'm in a league, a college football playoff pick'em league. You pay one fee at the beginning of the year, and then you pick 10 games against the spread. CBS picks the games for you. And one of them is Clemson, Georgia tomorrow, which I'm
Whew.
so excited for. But you have to pick against the spread. So if you think Georgia's going to win, but only by
Yeah.
3, then you pick Clemson.
Right.
I picked Clemson. They're plus 14.
Yeah.
I picked Clemson.
I think Clemson could be the ACC champs, in all
Oh, me
honesty.
too. I do
So-
too. Absolutely. And now Florida State, they're not much of a problem, right? Like, I'm not worried about Florida State.
No, Florida State, they're not.
Yeah, a team that NIU beat them in week 0.
Yeah.
But go Huskies! First game tomorrow. Cannot wait. We'll be
I'm
in DeKalb,
excited.
baby.
I'm excited.
And TV is hopefully coming with me. I want to get that taken care of, and we'll be watching Georgia versus Clemson. But that's some exciting stuff. College football's back. Frank, quickly, let's do America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Frank, the floor is yours.
Alrighty, VP, got 3 picks. I'll roll through them pretty quickly here. We got the Padres and the Rays tonight. I like the Padres money line at plus 115 for 2 units. Martin Perez was great in the month of August. August. Bradley for the Rays. He's been a complete 180. Was terrible in the month of August. The Rays have also not scored a lot of runs while Bradley has been on the mound, and it's going to be even harder to do with Perez. It's been really in form lately. Padres have won every game in which Perez has pitched with them this year, which has been 5, and I expect that to continue with the Padres having more to play for than the Rays at this time of the year. Padres money line at plus 115 for 2 units. Also tonight, we got the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to go with Braves money line at plus 114 for 3 units. The Braves are coming off of a tough 5-4 loss to the Phillies yesterday. Reynaldo Lopez, ex-White Sox VP, is on the mound for the Braves, and Ranger Suarez is on the mound for the Phillies. The pitching matchup is basically a wash, but the last time the Phillies faced Lopez, he was virtually unhittable, and the Braves were able to pick up the win. I don't necessarily love the same pitcher pitching the same way he did in back-to-back meetings versus that team, but with the Braves coming off of a loss and how hot they've been playing, I like the Braves as underdogs tonight. And my last pick, got to give a college football pick. Miami Hurricanes at the Florida Gators tomorrow. I like the Florida Gators plus 2.5 at minus 108 bet to win 2 units. I do really think the Miami Hurricanes are going to have a really good year this year, but they open up with the Florida rivalry game. Those are always tough. Even though the Gators are unranked, I think they're going to give this rusty Miami team a hard time in week 1. I like spots where you could get a couple points as the home team. And in a rivalry game between 2 teams that could put up points, the plus 2.5 seems fair for week 1. So that's what I got for you this week, VP.
Very good picks. I hope you go 3-0. I was glad to hear that music. I'm glad that we were back. It was great to be back with you, Frank. Next week, our show will be back to its normal, exciting self, I think. We're incredibly sorry and sad to hear about the passing of Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthrew. It was really hard to do this show, I will say. I don't like getting in front of a camera and tearing up at all, but it's not something I've tried to live positive most of the time. I think that's one thing I'm good at, but this was incredibly sad, and use it as a reminder to not drink and drive. Use it as a reminder to hug those that are close to you and call them. If you got beef with someone, fix it. We're not promised the rest of the day. We're not promised tomorrow. So, go about the rest of your day with Johnny in your heart and his brother Matthrew, and the Gaudreau family. And we leave you with one of my all-time favorite Johnny Gaudreau highlights when he set up the Nate Dogg for a big overtime win with one of the greatest, most fun teams of all time, Team North America. We will see you next week for another episode of Bardown. Make sure you watch the rest of the Bardown Network. It's a big college football weekend. We love you guys. Have a great rest of your day. The former Kitchener Ranger, John Gibson with the save.
Sedin again. Gaudreau in front. McKinnon all by himself. Nathan McKinnon. Score! Holy jumping! What a finish! Somebody get me a lozenge. Oh my God!